What's up, everyone? So I have got a new reaction going on, and this one is a throwback, but it's also a documentary. This one is called Broke, and it's from the ESPN 30 for 30 series, and it follows some athletes who had made immense sums of money in professional athletics and then ended up broke for a variety of reasons: bad investments, addictions and abuses, just a lot of bad choices. And the reason I bring that to you is that I think we all can fall into that at any economic earning level. You can be bottom of the barrel minimum wage, and shout out to those people, or you can be as rich as you think you will ever need to be in the next 2 lifetimes and still end up in the same place for a lot of the same reasons. So if we can follow our favorite athletes, their stats, the cars they drive, the houses, or just emulate their jump shots, their tennis strokes, their golf swings, all that stuff, wearing their merchandise, then let's follow the ones who did it right in the post-athletic career and who have transitioned into financial health. I think that that's an important part. Generational health, generational wealth, all of those things. I think if we're going to take clues from them and cues from them, then we need to take the ones that are going to positively impact our lives, not just what's going to give us a gratification in the moment, such as buying a jewelry or buying drinks in the club or buying that car that you really can't afford. We want to stay within our means, and sometimes it's hard, but that's discipline. And the part that we don't always see or are told is the amount of discipline that it takes for a lot of people to get to the professional level, for them to be seen by us, is the same discipline that a lot of them will implement when it comes to their finances to live a healthy financial life afterwards. So I'm going to get into it. I'm not going to show the whole thing, but I'm going to show excerpts, and then I will share my thoughts and opinions. So let's go.
Salaries, explosion in revenues.
We're trying to get them to make better decisions. There's so many things that they don't understand how their life is going to change, and we're just trying to prepare them for that change.
All you need is one of everything. One car. You get one.
We have a little thing around my house we call Operation Cutback. I'm going from 5 cars to 1 car.
Want to get a house? One house. One piece of jewelry. Not the Mr. T starter set. Don't need all that.
Isn't it? So this snippet that I just showed, they're talking about how in college, these kids that are getting ready to go professional are not really being educated, or at least at the time. Like I said, this documentary is pretty old, but at the time they weren't being given the tools that they would need to become, generationally wealthy overnight. You're talking 19, 20-year-olds. I honestly would say if I did the same thing, there would be a great chance I would have ended up broke too, because you're at a very volatile stage in life where you know it all, and then you are given it all. And it's given based off of what you are able to do as far as performing. So your ego's being inflated. You've got people around you telling you how great you are and all of these things. Not too many people are going to be the one. And we've seen this in other cases where people get put out of camps and entourages and things like that for trying to be the voice of reason. Hey, you don't need to buy that. You don't need to drink that. You don't need to take that. And suddenly they're out because you're telling somebody who is all powerful in their prime what to do. And a lot of times that doesn't work. And a lot of times, does that ever work for us when we were 19 just on our own and our parents telling us you need to go back to school, you need to get a job, go to the service, get a trade? And what do we want to do? What we want to do. So I say all that to say, that's a hard time for us to ask, kids to really have focus. If we look at the human brain not developing fully until 25, and that's if it's not racked with concussions, substance abuses, and anything else. So thinking clearly is not always it. And just listening to somebody who's even gone through it before is a hard thing to get people to listen to. Because what do we always say? It won't happen to me. That was you. So there's also a time where professional athletics was not paying these king's ransoms to these young players. Guys are signing for just amazing amounts, and it's always a record-breaking sum because of the way sports and business and corporations have got into bed together. Ratings equals revenue. All of these things are allowing that these kids are just being paid incredible amounts. And I'm not mad at that, but there really does need to be something that can be done. I've always said that these professional leagues, yes, we will pay you some, but part of your contract is we're going to withhold 5 to 10% of your salary, which is nothing in the terms of how much they're making, but for your retirement. Yes, there is a retirement fund. Yes, there's the 401k, I think they said, but there's going to be an extra account that you have to put into, or we will take 5% out and you will become a stockholder within the company. So you always have some revenue based off of the growth of the company. That's just always been my thought. But then they talked about, I think that where athletes are getting better as well is, God, I will still go back and get that. And that's financial security in the long run, because if you are hurt by injury or anything else, you have a job, a set of skills that are not just physically inclined to pay you to fall back on. And that's an important part. One guy was talking about guys now talking more about their investments and things like that. So instead of talking about the latest, greatest car or the nicest club to go to when you're in a particular city, what's your portfolio like? Who are you investing with? Things like that. Guys are now like, it's a group thing. It's peer pressure in a lot of ways where you are trying to keep up with your proverbial Joneses. And a lot of times when you see people shift, you're going to see the trappings of what it's like when you are in the midst of a lot of predators, as far as women who are wanting to garner your attention, gain access to your resources by hook or by crook. And then we'll talk about. Yikes. That's really a sad picture, especially when you're talking about the kids. But going back to the beginning of that, when, it's nature. Guys are going to peacock, which is why I think male peacocks have the bright feathers, because they're trying to show off, hey, look what I have, come mate with me so my bloodline can continue. And with males, humans, when you have more money than the next person, well, then that's that gold chain, that's that car, that's the clothing, that's a lot of things. Sometimes we don't lead with our personality, especially when you have an abundance of superficial resources. But it is kind of crazy to find out that there's a whole website. You can sign up for women to be in the place where these rich men are at. So it's a game. It's a game between peacocking and hypergamy. Women wanting things that are going to secure their future. It is what it is. And some of these guys need to know better. And some of these ladies, I would probably say, probably should do better, but that's not for me to judge. That's just kind of my immediate thoughts when it comes to that. When you don't have empathy for some of these people, well, they're rich, they should know better, and whether it is your favorite actor getting a DUI, whether it's, all of these things you see, and we always leap to, well, they're rich enough, they should know better. They're still human at the end of the day. And immense wealth is not going to erase a lot of the things about who we are at the core, namely our upbringing, namely the values that were instilled into us. So a lot of times it's going to take some time, and a lot of times we run out of time, or we've seen people run out of time before they got it right. And that's a sad place to be as well, because again, you get immense money, but if you were taught that drinking was not a big deal and you are a heavy drinker, and then you have an accident with this lottery winning of financial success, well, that's all taken away. And a lot of times, again, in the one I mentioned before documentary, The Curse of the Lottery, people were ending up in prison because of the mistakes that they made when they became immediately wealthy. So it's not just these inner city kids from, the ghettos that don't know how to act right with a bunch of money. I saw nurses, I saw professionals, I saw people who just didn't have to think about anything else other than having fun or not having to be as responsible, and that became their downfall. So a lot of these people, they're also helping their family, and I don't mean just a bunch of kids that they've had. I'm talking about helping their parents, their grandparents, a lot of people around them. Again, people are coming from obscurity and a lot of poverty, and so they go to help out all these people because they don't calculate taxes and all these things where this money is going to wither down. And then before you know it, it's like, oh, wait a minute, I only have coins to rub together. And there's still people coming with their hands out. That's on top of if you have scammer friends, if you have scam investors, the people that you trust to pay and you pay to count your money and to keep it in order and to pay your taxes. How many times have we seen somebody go to jail or prison or at least be in tax trouble because the person that they trusted to do it didn't do it or was taking money off the top? So a lot of times, again, people end up broke for a variety of reasons. When you're looking at professional athletics as well, you can easily, and I can say this from a football standpoint, you can easily fall into the pain pill epidemic because you're wrecking your body constantly. They say a football game for a lot of people, a lot of the players, is like being in a series of small car accidents. Well, if you've ever been in a small car accident, I don't know, 15, 20 miles per hour, it will still jar your body. It'll still leave your neck stiff. But imagine doing that every week and then having little ones as far as practice in between. So a lot of times these people are having to go through a lot of procedures to fix themselves, to get them back out on the field because you're under contract to do it. These aren't just choices where I want to do it. A lot of people do. But a lot of people, it's their contract. It's how they earn because it's incentive based. It's bonus based. If you do this much or score these many points, then you will get X amount of dollars. So a lot of these contracts are not guaranteed the way we see it when we just see it on a headline or on a news flash. So you have to keep that in mind. If somebody even just has a problem, something as simple, I don't want to say simple, but like gambling, some sort of addiction. If you have any addictions, you are going to be prone to spend a lot of your money and attention towards it. So there's things to consider when we're talking about these people. Mental health. If you have just been banging your head against something, like namely another person, we've seen the results of CTE and concussion. So when you're talking about combat sports, but when you're even just talking about the mental health issues, we've seen tennis players now in the last few years where they were stepping out of massive tournaments because of the weight of the moment that it was taking on them. And I'm sure if you went back and looked at a lot of other players in the past as well, there would be times where they would admit like the pressure was immense, not just from having to go out and perform, but what the media had to say about it, going into it and things like that. So you're under a microscope at all times. So that can certainly change how we think. And when you also have the flip side, when everybody's just telling you how great you are, that can be problematic as well. It's not a healthy balance. So a lot of times that's where you find an avenue and that just turns into the spending, and that can be a problem. So I really like this piece, but I'm going back to the top where I do believe that this is something that I think that anybody at any level from minimum wage up can learn lessons from in the way that we conduct ourselves, the choices we make, the disciplines that we adhere to, and the way that we go about creating a nest egg. I'll give you my own personal story here. When I was 21, 22, I had no direction, and I finally landed this job because when you have no skills, I went to college for about a year, and your application looks like everybody else's applications, and there's a stack that thick, just for starters. And I finally landed a job. My mom used to tell me all the time, go through a temp agency. So finally did, got this job. I passed the probation period. They hired me, all this stuff. And my manager at the time, Tracy, fantastic man, he would give me rides back and forth. I didn't have a car. I just barely got my apartment, all this stuff. But he told me about the 401k program there at the job and showed me the ropes and told me how to work that and all of those things. So I trusted him with everything. So I put into it. And decades later, I'll just say decades later, and that can be anybody at a young age. It could be at any age. If you start investing, if you start saving, if you start putting small amounts in, you don't have to put a lot in. But my most recent job, one of the guys that had been at the company, he hadn't been investing and he'd been there for some time. And so I started hammering him. It's like, man, why are you not in the 401k? He finally got into it. Two guys, as a matter of fact. And that's how they got their houses. Because they had saved enough in the year or two after, I was really going in on them. But it was money that they could borrow just to help put themselves into the homes that they had. One guy had some things from the military as well, I will say. But again, there's another way of securing something financially for yourself that is going to benefit you long term. But my point is that we need to educate each other at any level, whether it is working in front of cameras and millions of people, or whether it's working just at a register someplace. Talk to the people around you, listen to the people around you who you see who are doing well, and have some sound financial advice. Now follow up on it and do your own research. But you definitely have the ability, the tools in this day and age to be able to find some solid financial advice. And most jobs offer something in the way of being able to invest in a 401k, or sometimes your health savings plan you can put into a flex bucket, all of these other things. And I'm not a financial guru, analyst. I have this much education on the matter, but I'm talking about things that I've gone through that worked, that were tried and true for me. So whether you don't get a house or any things like that, the other piece I would say is, again, the spending. So prioritizing the spending. There's another story about a young lady who I worked with. She wanted a particular European high performance vehicle, and it was an older vehicle. But I had pointed out, if you just get a lesser brand name, it's the same size, it's newer, your insurance is probably going to be lower, and you're not going to have to deal with the exorbitant price for one, insurance, and two, repairs. But that logo is exactly what got her stuck. And I don't know if she ever ended up getting the car because she wasn't there that long, but I knew how much she made, and I knew that wasn't the choice to make. But a lot of times it's hard to tell people anything about financial wisdom. So I understand, but I wanted to bring this, so I'd love to hear what you guys have to say on the matter. I know some of you have been in a circumstance where finance is an issue, because most of us are living paycheck to paycheck. Most of us have some sort of savings, but maybe not that's going to sustain us for the long term. And then we also have to look at the things that are going to come out of the blue, such as a loved one becoming ill, or things where we can kind of help with those resources. And so, again, it's very, very fragile footing for a lot of us. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say on the matter. What it was, possibly without divulging too much, but what it was, how you overcame it, or what you're going through, or how you avoided it, all of those things, kind of like the stories I'm just telling here. But I'd love to hear it. Ace up the sleeve. Advice, comment, experience. Thumbs up, please. Thumbs down. I won't be mad at you either way. And subscriptions to the channel are free, so we would love to have you. And as always, I hope this finds everybody in your place, pursuit, or beginnings of total health, mind, body, and soul. Peace, love, unity, solidarity. And of course, what do we got? Subscription, video, and I'll try to make them somewhat tied into this topic, and that way we can enjoy a little bit more. So stick around.